It's episode 86 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guests are Andrew Armfield and Fiona McGarvey. Yay! Let's clap ourselves.
Best people to clap. We gave ourselves a very warm welcome.
That was nice, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, us.
Nailed it.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having us.
I would like to ask you about Joaquin and... Is it Joaquin? Is that how we say it?
With an N.
With an N.
Joaquin? I'd like to ask you about Joaquin and Gillian play folk. Yay!
Yay! A round of applause.
So where to begin? I like saying round of applause instead of doing a round of applause. That's a nice shortcut you've figured out there. Round of applause.
Round of applause for you, sir.
Thank
For you, sir. Yeah, where do we start?
Do you want to explain?
At the beginning? Maybe?
Yes. Do that. No, I was going to say...
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, do you want to explain what the show is, and then maybe explain how you got there?
Yes, that sounds like a better.
Yes, good. I'm glad you're here for structuring purposes. So Joaquin and Gillian are two characters that we play who are folk musicians from Barnsley in the north of England. Mm-hmm. And they come and do shows, and basically they have hundreds of songs.
Too many songs,
because they've recorded every song they've ever written.
Yeah.
So when they come to the gigs, they don't want to put together a set list, so they just ask the audience what songs they want to hear, and the audience shout out the songs, and then
they dutifully play them.
Yeah.
But we have to be clear that the songs are improvised.
Yeah, we've had
a few misunderstandings with the structure of the show, so we're constantly devising new ways to inform our audience that in fact the show is improvised folk music. Yeah. But maybe we'll come on to that another time. So every song is completely improvised, and we make it up on the spot with our, Andy's mostly variety of musical instruments, and my violin.
Yeah. It's great.
It's great, yeah. And it started because we did a podcast, funnily enough, come full circle, with a friend of ours, and on it we wanted to play these two, but we improvised everything about them apart from, I think we just knew that they were, did we just decide that
musicians.
Folk musicians, yeah, and a duo.
It. Yeah.
That's all we brought to the podcast, and then on the podcast we created these characters.
Yeah.
And their real names are actually...
Jimmy and Marmalade.
Jimmy and Marmalade. But their stage names are Joaquin and Gillian.
Yeah.
Which is a lesser known fact, actually. We don't usually tell our audiences that.
I mean, there was a lot... That podcast was kind of crazy, and there's a lot from it that we didn't decide to keep in the canon, that Gillian was 8 foot tall.
Yeah. We had
hard to do live, and we met a talking bear. There was as often happens on podcasts.
We went a bit wild.
Yeah.
So we had to rein it in a bit, but we've been taught that that's the best way around to do things.
Yeah.
Go as big as you can and then pull it back.
And then forget all of it.
We make up our own improv rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when they started on this podcast, and then they've just grown from there, really. And now we're doing our full hour-long shows with them. And it's going down quite well. Yeah. So we're loving it.
So it's really good fun. And it is, I mean, it's funny what we were saying about making sure people know it's improvised. We were talking about this today because we did a couple of shows at the White Bear in Kennington. And even with people giving suggestions for song names, one of my friends who came thought it was scripted, like entirely. They must be like, these guys cannot write.
Yeah, because we need them to know that it's made up, right? Otherwise they're like a bit underwhelmed by the, quite funny and sweet songs,
but not
a bit wacky, and the talking in between. But if they know that it's improvised, then they think it's blast.
And my friend, he thought it was scripted. When we say what song do you want to hear, I'm waiting for an ask for. Every time she go, someone's forgotten their cue. Yeah. I genuinely think we were giving people lines.
She thought they were all planted. We can only just about get our friends to come to the shows, let alone give them lines to say. So, that's funny. So we're working out how to inform our audience
Yeah.
of the improvised nature of the show.
I mean, that is the biggest compliment. I mean, it is annoying,
Oh,
but it is the
it's a
biggest
huge
compliment.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of, because we're talking about ways to introduce it and whether, you know, because obviously if you go to an improv lineup night, you have a person at the beginning, it's saying, you know, this improv, everything you see is made up, and you can do getting the audience to shout out their names and getting them to shout out their favourite dinosaur and that sort of thing to warm them up. Whereas because the format of the show is that it's a Joaquin and Gillian gig, you know, we don't want to go out and say, hi, we're Fiona and Andy improvisers, and now we're going to be Joaquin and Gillian. We want it to be their Joaquin and Gillian's gig.
Yeah.
So then it's just whether we have a big sign behind us that says this is improv, but don't tell us. Or, I don't really.
We need to go
figure it
and
out.
see other. It's quite unique, isn't it? That's basically the point. Is that at other improv shows, the nature of the improv is the you know, the banner of the show.
Yeah.
Whereas what we're trying to do is sell a show where it's not the banner, and that's really difficult. And actually, not that maybe there aren't so many things that we've seen of people doing that.
Yeah.
Although maybe they do. I don't know. And maybe it's like, you know, lots of the shows that we've done before have been real improv audiences.
Yeah.
And they're you know, connoisseurs of the whole thing, so they really know what's going on. Whereas as we're starting this show, we're getting other audience members in, and even just family and friends who don't go to improv that often or whatever. And there's a confusion that we've just never really met before, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's it, because our improv has been so many line-up nights and improv audiences.
Yeah.
And they improv audiences, you know to shout out, and that's allowed.
Yeah.
Also know that it doesn't really matter what you shout out. And someone was saying at one of our shows, they were like, I know I meant to say something, but what if it's silly?
Yeah.
Oh, give it to us, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's and it's a really interesting learning curve for us.
It is, yeah.
Because it's
to know what to do about it as well, because we don't want to undermine ourselves, like you say, by going on and being like, you don't want to describe the show before you do the show. That seems a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But equally, like you also say, we want them to understand what the show is.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
We'll work it
the
out.
more we just bully it into people as they leave.
Yeah.
We're always in the bar, you know, in the pub after our shows, talking to our friends, like, what do you mean you think it's scripted?
So, for it to be scripted, so I know because I've seen you perform and I'm coming from an improv background. To me, it's obvious that it's made up because somebody from the audience calls out the name of a song and then you perform a song with that name.
I know.
For that to work, for that not to be improvised, do the people that think it isn't improvised think that the person that called out the name of the song is a bigger fan of yours than they are, so they know the songs, so they're calling out for their favourites?
Maybe that is, and maybe
They
actually have our CDs.
They think we're real.
Yeah.
I mean, glorious.
If we need to get to work, if we need to make the 50 CDs that we pretend to play from.
I love the idea that we go to the bar afterwards and like our pals would be like, guys, you just missed a great show.
Yeah.
We came to see you, but you weren't on. It was these guys called Joaquin and Gillian. They had loads of fans.
Oh my god. I feel like you could write a film about this where improv characters like actually take over our lives, and people think that they're us. That they're not us, but it is us. And
quick, say copyright.
Oh, copyright! No one steal that. I'm making it in 2020.
That's how the law works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See in a circle.
Oh, the sea in a circle, like a snow globe, but with water in. Now ignore that.
I think that undermines the legality of. Before that, it was pretty much legally binding, but now.
So sorry, Vic.
Damn it, Andy.
So, have you thought about playing folk gigs?
For real?
For real?
Oh, so going to we should. But that would require us writing music. See, that's if we go, what we would need actually is to go to folk night and have someone in the audience who knows what's going on. Then they could shout what they like, and everyone else would go, my God.
Oh my god.
Really fun. We should do that.
We should do that. Are there folk open mic nights?
There must be.
And there's folk line-up nights, which I reckon with enough sway we could get on.
This is a great idea. I think we should do it.
That would be amazing.
Although
we're so sneaky.
Told.
That's true.
I mean,
if there's anyone with
Stuart's
like
listenership.
folk improv crossover podcast listening habits, then
they would know.
They would know.
But they could be the person we plant. Come forward,
Yes.
you.
Come forward, sir and or madam.
I don't know how big the Venn diagram of improv and folk music is. I don't know
It's true.
who's in
Who's
that.
in the middle
I mean,
section.
imagine it's you two.
Yeah, it's just us.
Those
Maybe
two.
us
I mean, there may be other
Right
people,
there.
but you two are the two people that I know about. That's hilarious. It's hilarious. So why Barnsley?
Great question.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Oh yeah, go on, Fee.
Don't you know the reason?
Let's see what you say. It's like
In the show, when I'm like, why don't you tell the story about when you found that twig when we were 10? Well, we wanted to be from somewhere in the UK, so we opened my laptop and went on Google Maps and found Barnsley. It jumped out at us from the map. Basically.
From the map, basically, yeah.
And that's what we chose. And also then we found out that Barnsley creates several famous folk singers in real life. So then it seemed like a very viable option for us.
Yeah, no, it's getting. There's a folk festival there every year run by a wonderful folk singer called Kate Rosby, and it's really. So one of our shows at the White Bear, a couple of my pals from uni came, who I haven't seen in a while, and I didn't realise they're massively into folk music, and so they know about Kate Rosby, and at her live shows, and a lot of folk artists do it, but Kate Rosby does it especially, over-explains every song, and will tell you the whole story and then play the song, and the story takes about 10 minutes and the song's 3 minutes. And when my friend came to the show, she said, "Oh, you did that thing that Kate Rosby does." I was like, "Yeah, we're just chatting."
That's just how we do it.
Accidentally
so
pastiching
actually,
folk.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of meant to be.
Yeah, I think it is as well.
Yeah, I think it's right.
Yeah, and we kind of, because we wanted to give the character somewhere to be from that wasn't just our accents.
Yeah. That's the more sort of professional answer.
Yeah, to give us
some separation.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just it wouldn't just be Fee and Andy, but it makes an obvious difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I concur.
So do I.
100%. Well done.
Mm.
And Andy, you said you play multiple instruments. What can someone expect if they come and see your show?
Oh well, so bit of guitar, bit of banjo, mandolin, shruti box, which is a beautiful like Indian drone instrument that's kind of like a accordion but less work. Squeeze box, violin from Fee.
Yeah.
Fee does the violin.
I bring the violin.
She brings the violin, which I cannot play.
Thank God, otherwise
So really important
you
to
really
get
show me up.
So I think, is that all of them? I don't think I missed any.
The concertina, squeeze box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite an array.
Yes.
And it's nice because before the show we put them all out in
out.
a sort of tableau.
Put them all out, wonder what we're doing with our lives, and then we do a show.
It's great. It's nice because I think it gives us a real variety of songs, and we've sort of created little sub-genres within the folk heading, according to the instruments that we're using at the time. We do rap with violin. We do
a Cockney song.
We do Cockney songs with the squeeze box, which are a personal favourite of mine.
It's really fun. Silly fun.
They're from our Cockney album.
Yeah, of course.
One of our Cockney albums, I should say.
Oh, I mean, there's so many.
Several. And so that's nice. I think when we first started it, we didn't think so much about the instruments necessarily, did we?
No, and the first few gigs we did, and you saw one of our very first at Launchpad, we just used guitar.
Yeah.
And then we did a gig in Edinburgh, because I went to a Swedish International Improv Festival with Multiverse last year, and there met a lovely girl called Jules who does improv in Edinburgh, and the scene there when the students aren't about is very small, so I got chatting to her about the show, and Fee and I did, this is a very long-winded story, but strap in guys, it's got a good ending. So Fee and I went on tour over summer with a company based in Glasgow, so on our way we were going through Edinburgh, so I said to Jules, well, do you want us to come play? And that was probably one of my favourite shows we've done, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
It was really interesting being somewhere we don't know at all, because, we've been to lots of gigs at the Miller, and, so it was really fun. And an old pal of mine from uni, who I haven't seen so she graduated in my first year. So I won't have seen her in 7 years, since 2010, who lives in Edinburgh, came to see the show. And they really enjoyed it, but they said, play other instruments, because you play other instruments, so don't just do guitar, because you have those options.
And I think it's... We've worked a lot together, not in improv, and we trained together. So this is sort of like one part of the work that in my head is how I think of it, that we do together with other people as well or whatever. So the tour that we do in summer was Shakespeare, and it's open air Shakespeare. It's all live music, and so we were hired as actor musos for these tours that we do, and that I think that's really aided us in growing Joaquin and Gillian as well, because I don't know, you got the concertina for...
I pretty much bought it to use it in the Summer Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, essentially.
And then when we came back to London after the tour, we suddenly felt so equipped by this concertina and wanted to incorporate it. So it's kind of like, a big amalgamation of all the other work that we do and how we're using probably more music than we thought we would in our careers as well, since we've graduated. Which is nice, because
really
then you feel like you're adding things to it, and we're always thinking about where to take the show and what more we can do with it. And I don't think way back when we created these characters on that podcast that we spoke about earlier, that we thought that we would be doing this kind of show now. No. We didn't really have a thought of it, and that's nice to look retrospectively, to look back and be excited about where you've got to with something.
Yeah.
Yes, we should probably name check the podcast so people can seek it out. Is it still online?
No, it was my poor heart. It was a wonderful podcast that me and my friend Rob did, I'm going to say, 4 episodes of. And then it fell to the sound base I know. It was a podcast called Rob and Beer and Andy. And it was me and my pal Rob, and the first half would be us hosting it together and chatting, and then the second half would be that I would improvise a character and be a guest, and Rob would interview them. Fun and silly, and we'd drink beer, hence why the beer. We just put beer in the title to drink beer. But no, that podcast is unfortunately not on anymore, and I don't think it exists anywhere. I think it might even be gone from iTunes, but I mean, come and see our shows. We're probably better at it now than we were on the podcast. So
definitely just come to the shows.
It's nice to imagine what happened on that podcast, even maybe even more than actually hearing it.
Correct. We say like it was great. It was bad.
And the nice thing about using more than one instrument, although I enjoyed you very much when you do it, just you doing that, is that just from the audience point of view, it's like, it's kind of a spectacle, and it's a visual thing as well as an audio thing, and it just makes it, well, to me it makes it seem even more improvised, but then that obviously doesn't seem to be true for all audiences, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it makes it, I don't know if easy is the right word, but it means that an hour show, I think, goes quicker and is more enjoyable because you have more variety. That's what I'm trying to say. It just gives more variety to the audience, and it would still be a good show if we were just doing it on guitar, but it's more fun having different instruments it just, I guess, changes it up, makes it a bit more entertaining.
Yeah, I think so. And I think mainly why we love this show so much is because we just have so much fun doing it, and we have so much fun rehearsing it. And I think that the instruments are so much of that enjoyment is from the instruments. The characters are great and we love that, but it is the music for me that I think is just so wonderful and really is what we have so much fun doing. And I remember at the beginning when we didn't use my violin and we just used guitar, and I was really hesitant to bring the violin into it, and Andy was like, get over it, come on.
Correct.
Which is useful. It's good to have people saying that to you in your life, because and then suddenly, I think we were just in my living room and you were like, just play a tune on your violin, just make something up now on your violin. And he played guitar with me. And it's that feeling of just being, and I think this goes across all improv, of just relaxing and being like, it is fine if you mess up. It is fine if you play a B flat in C major or whatever. It's just let yourself go. And actually in that letting yourself go, there's so much freedom and so much enjoyment. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but it really did hit me how fun that was just in that moment. And then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, no, let's do it. We can do a show like this. I'm brilliant. Yeah. Crack out the champagne. My God. Yeah. So.
And I think with maybe with not to get too deep, but with all things, like a lot of stuff just takes someone being like, go on, do that. Yeah. You can do it. Yeah. And then if you allow yourself to, and I think especially, with instruments, if so on guitar I'm trained classically, and you did classical violin, right? And if you're so used to being trained in reading music and being trained that sticking to the music is the most important thing, then you do go for this. You panic that you're not reading a thing, and it took me ages to be like, actually, it's fine. And what I said to you at the time, musical improv, great. Well, for us anyway, great rule. If you play a wrong note, play it 3 times, and people go, oh. It's jazz. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh no, that's obviously right.
Yeah. No, it's true though. And being relaxed. Then if you can make a mistake, then you're not holding yourself to any unachievable goals, which in improv is crucial. Yeah. Because otherwise you can't do anything if you're frightened of making a mistake. And that feels more acute, I think, with music, because, like you say, we're trained to play the right note, and you hear something bad and your whole body convulses and you're like, oh, I failed my grade 7 or whatever.
Anthea shouts it every time on stage. Plays the wrong note. She shouts, I failed my grade 7, convulses and falls on the floor. Best bit of the show.
But it's built into you, because, well, that's certainly how I feel about it. And even, I was thinking this recently, I've recently taken up learning the piano, which is a big undertaking, and it is proving very tricky but fun. And I was talking to my grandpa about this because when I learnt the violin, I never learnt to play anything by heart because you didn't need to. So you'd have your piece of Handel or Bach or whatever, and you'd always have the music. You'd be trained and taught and practice, and then you take an exam for it. That's my history of music. That's how I think of it, and that's how I learned. And so I never knew anything by heart. And so when we started doing all these folk things in the Shakespeare shows, when we learned these little tunes, and Andy would write tunes and we'd learn them, we didn't have any music, and you just know them by heart. That was just so new to me. And I think that is just a really different way of doing music. And it frees you up. I love classical music, and I love the training I had, but it's definitely different.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to get rid of that part of you, that if it doesn't sound beautiful and pretty, it's wrong, which as with growing up with the violin was drummed into me, because when it doesn't sound pretty, it sounds really horrific. But it's kind of enjoying those moments and making a joke out of them, and the audience love that. Going back to the show, if you make a mistake, it's like a cherry on the top. They just like, whoa!
And it's making the mistake and then using the mistake and recovering from it and using it. I mean, as with all improv, it's a really beautiful thing to watch.
Nice.
People saving themselves is amazing to see, and it's so impressive. So
it's fun.
Cool. So when you're doing the show, you come on and you introduce yourselves, and then is it just a case of asking for for a song?
The songs they want to hear. When we're doing different genres, so we do. In a set, we do 4 or 5 songs normally that aren't in a specific genre, but then, for example, say, oh, we thought we'd play you one off our Cockney album. What one do you want to hear? So, again, the same thing about the song, but if we're doing one and decide to do one in a specific genre, then we will say that first. But, I mean, you could just as easily say, what song do you want to hear? And go, oh, it's one of our Cockney ones. Maybe we should try that. Although, I don't know which way around works better.
That's kind of what we do. We sort of introduce, that's the only structure we give it, is what style of song we might be doing. But you're right, we could do it the other way around. It doesn't really matter. Although we have quite a lot of fun describing how we came up with the genre and how the CD and the songs were written. Like, our trip in 98 to...
when we were 5.
When we were 7.
There's a lot of confusion about the ages.
Maybe I think they're older than us, I don't know. So there's that as well. We kind of go off on a bit of a tangent as we describe the history of this bunch of songs or whatever, and then we ask for one from that bunch. So I suppose you could do that in any way, really.
The ask for is essentially just saying, what song do you want to hear? when when people get it, it's great.
Yeah. When people are on board and they know what's going on, it's magic, because then they're like, oh, what can we give them? And also it's nice because they're often, their suggestions are usually inspired by things that we've been talking about.
Oh, that's lovely.
So it all sort of links together, which is when the audience is participating and that happens, that feels nice.
And also, one of my favourite suggestions we've ever had, and also one of my favourite songs we've ever done, was at one of the White Bear shows, and someone asked for The Last Dinosaur as a song unrelated to anything.
Yeah, so
just thinking about the film, I guess. But I mean, and it was a really nice song.
It was a nice song.
It was like, well done, us. Applause for you. Applause for you. But yeah, and it's funny. I mean, all improvisers get this, but it's amazing what comes from people, what people's brains go to.
Yeah.
And that, I think I remember at the gig laughing because for me, The Last Dinosaur was so left field.
Yeah.
Like so unexpected as to what they'd asked for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it surprises you. And that's great. You use the people around you. It's just like when you're rehearsing improv with a bigger group or whatever, you bounce off each other. We have this ongoing joke that I always pick. My ideas are always things that I can see in the room, which is how I've limited my...
What's in the room with Fiona McGarvey? It's a great game.
It's a great game. It just reminds me of my limited imagination. But it's true, and so I'm like, yes, let's get this audience in and see what's in their brains, because I'm sure it's much more exciting than what's in mine. I just choose like the pink flamingo over there.
It's quite a good one to have in a room.
Yeah,
it's useful.
This is a good room.
This is a very good room.
Yeah.
Thank you to the nursery for allowing us to record here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Applause for you, nursery.
Applause for you, nursery.
Applause. We're not actually going to applause, but we're going to say
Say.
applause for you,
Applause for you.
nursery.
Yeah.
So once you've got the suggestion, how do you know? So do you both start playing at the same time?
Instruments? No.
No.
No. That might lead to a cacophony and
Maybe we should try it.
ears bleeding. Yeah.
So one of you will start playing first.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you decide?
Yeah, so we have a little bit of structure for that, don't we? Well,
Yeah, so usually, there's basically, it depends what song we're doing. So, excuse me, a couple of the set pieces we do are tunes rather than anything with singing. Mm-hmm. So that's when we play together. And then with the raps that we do, Fee's playing violin for those. So Fee starts. Mm-hmm. And then when we're both singing, I'll start playing.
On a guitar and mandolin and banjo. So usually we talk a little bit about how we wrote that song that they suggest, sorry. And in that discussion about how we wrote it, emerges a sort of theme or a mood or a style from it. And sometimes you can flip that on that. It might sound like it's a love song, and then Andy will start playing and it's all like really hard rock, mean, angry.
Correct.
Or you go with it, and play to the sort of mood of the song, I guess. And then we go from there. And we don't really have that much structure for the lyrics. It's quite like you go, I go, but we don't really necessarily. We kind of sort of follow it as soon as the song gets started, don't we?
Yeah, and you get into a groove with it, and we usually find a chorus.
Yeah.
Usually quite easily. Sometimes remember the chorus.
Yeah, one of us has to be on board to remember the lyrics of the chorus, because we like to go back to it like normal conventional songs do. That's usually fine.
It is. And it's a really fun thing to play. Well, it's about playing with expectation when, as you said, if you describe a love song and then play like a hard rock song, or even a few where it starts really sweet and then changes.
Yeah.
And, it's fun.
Yeah. And we don't know that either. You're singing a verse about how lovely the flowers are or whatever, and then you see a poo on the floor. I don't know.
Correct. That is what you can expect.
You surprise yourself. You must know from improv, suddenly your mind goes somewhere and those lyrics or those words are coming out sooner than you realise, and we're listening to one another, and maybe the tone of the song changes. And I guess that's where the fun really lies, is telling a story in the song. And that we really, really have no plan for. We just follow our noses.
Yeah.
And each other.
Yeah.
And especially when we're doing the raps as well, because they're so fast. And you try and get some rhymes in for fun, but genuinely you don't really know what's going to come out. Ooh, fun. It's the scariest kind of improv. That's what we like.
Yeah.
So when you're establishing choruses, is one person establishing the chorus, and just because choruses are really hard in musical improv, so someone will start singing a chorus, and then does the other person listen and wait till the chorus is over and then repeat it, or?
I think it varies, but usually. Yes, so someone will start a chorus and then the other person will join in a repetition of it, so we know. But then it could be that one of us has sung a couple of lines and then the other one will sing a bit and then do those lines again.
Yeah.
So then we're like, oh, that's the chorus. Yeah. And it's not as structured as kind of when you're doing improvised musical theatre. I think and usually because it's more people as well, you have to have more of a structure in place. And that's very, so I've done a bit of work with Multiverse, and that, and it was really interesting and brilliant group to work with. They're so good, and it was amazing working with them because I learned so much, and now I've stolen it all. I learned so much from them, but with them, with the group numbers, the structure is so important, and they have, and that we're passing the songs and passing the lines, and when the chorus is going to come in the structure of the song, and then it's repeated by everyone. But I think because it's just the two of us, and the music the accompaniment is also coming from us. Yeah, it means we don't have to be so locked down structurally. Right. Yeah. It gives us a bit more freedom to kind of find it where it's going to be, and sometimes that means it's nowhere. Yeah, but that's more of a poem. Yeah, more of a spoken word poem with music. I guess it means we get to play more and experiment more and find where it goes, and I think also that does lend itself to the folk style of music. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And you mentioned the rapping. I'm really interested in the rapping. How does one get good at rapping?
Oh, well. I was walking down the street just the other day now.
Yeah, nice.
Always boots and cats.
Drop the beat.
He loves it when I say drop the beat in a show, and I always forget to do it.
Bring the beat back.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think because I just growing up had very eclectic musical tastes, as to fit, and I love rap, so I listen to a lot of rap, and I think like anything, the more you listen to it, the more it gets ingrained. And then, improv rap, I don't know. I think it's about you have to be able to think fast. I think but that's the only skill, I really think.
Yeah, I think Andy raps more than I rap, for sure. I've only rapped in rehearsal, private rehearsal. But that, again, is a violin moment of him being like, just do it. And I think that is what you do. You just do it. And it's just like throwing caution to the wind and being like, I'm just going to just speak fast and see what happens.
Yeah, and you know that there are enough words in your head and in your vocabulary that you will keep going. And that generally it's rhyming in rap isn't that hard, and also generally, that's probably a word, and I'm not just saying generally in a French accent, I mean within the genre, if you look at it, it's less structured than songs with a like ABAB pattern, and you have more rhymes within the lines and more I don't know the proper word for it, but rhymes that run over the edge of the line into the next line and stuff like that. So because it's freer, it means you can worry a bit less. Yeah. Right. And if in a way, I think makes the rhymes a bit easier to find because they can kind of come whenever. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And I think you're going so fast that the audience has to go fast with you. Yeah. That in the same way that you aren't thinking about the last thing you said because you're already thinking about the next thing, so are they. So they just go with you, I think. Yeah. It's not such a it's not a satisfying scientific answer, is it? But I think it is just sort of having blind faith and just going in and enjoying it. Because when you do it, and when I watch you doing it, it's just silly and it's fun.
And I ages ago, before we were doing Joaquin and Gillian, I saw a wonderful duo who are from New York, and I cannot remember what they're called. You're welcome, listeners, who do improv rap, and they were visiting from the US, and they were incredible. And I imagine if you asked them the same question, they would probably have a much more scientific, structured answer. But I kind of, and actually with a lot of the improv we do, it's cobbled together from different, because we did improv classes at drama school, and then from, growing up watching Who's Line, and then also listening to podcast, and it's all cobbled together from so many different things that it means I think it's less scientific in how we do it. And I know for sure I could definitely hone those things by having more training, which I hope to see in the future, but for the moment there is a lot of blind faith running down the corridor of
which is half and half. We talked about this quite a lot in our experience of improv, and the other groups that we've worked in, that we don't have such a structured background in it. We haven't done pure improv training. Like Andy said, it's sort of more a big mashup of the experiences and training that we have had in different places. Which I don't know what other people... I'd love to have some of the more thorough sort of head-on training, just purely in improv. But, time and money and other limitations mean that hasn't happened yet. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because that is a difference. I think that we don't have such a structure or an understanding necessarily of what it is that we do. But we seem to enjoy it and have fun doing it, and so do the audience. So I guess we'll sort of grow with it as long as that continues happening. And then hopefully, maybe have more training in the future. And
for sure.
To it from those aspects as well. Yeah.
I mean, it always seems when you perform that it's very natural. So sometimes when I'm watching a group and they've had lots of improv training, I'm going, oh, okay, they're doing that thing, and I probably know who they've learned it from.
Right.
Whereas I can actually understand, in a way, people thinking that you are a real folk group, because I don't see those improv tricks or those techniques. So it always feels really real when I've seen you perform.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's really lovely to hear.
Yeah, it is really nice. And because it's funny, isn't it? Because I sometimes feel like such an improv novice. When people are talking, it's like, I don't know, you've gone to play netball and you don't know what the hoop... They're talking about all these words and using these words, and I'm like, do you know what that is? And I feel like I'm really behind and stupid in it. But I guess, it's just a different background, and everyone's doing all sorts of different things, and everyone has different backgrounds. So at the end of the day, whether it's improv or not, we're just putting on shows and we want people to enjoy them.
And I think we have the advantage that we did... Fiona and I went to drama school together, and something people say to us a lot, as well as we improvised with a group of 5 of us called Improfessional, and we also all went to the same drama school. And because we've trained together and done a lot of acting together, I think we're very comfortable with each other. And obviously, as you know, the biggest thing in improv with a group is trust.
Yes. Yeah.
And because we've had that from the very beginning of our drama school training, so we were there for a year, and we finished in 2015. So we've had that many years of working together and having that trust, and I think that means that our relationship on stage appears very natural.
Yes, it does.
And also that it's a Joaquin and Gillian is such a lovely show to do, because I go on never worrying about failing or tripping up, because I know if I do, Fee's gonna fix it.
and ditto as well. I think it is so much about feeling comfortable with each other. And before we did our first hour-long show at the White Bear in September, I was so nervous all day. I've never been that nervous. I honestly, I really was quite beside myself. And Andy came to my house before, and we had a bit of a warm up, bit of a rehearsal, whatever, and just chilled out really. And he was like, "What on earth is wrong with you?" Because we've done so much together, and we've performed, Shakespeare to hundreds of people every night, and I never get like that with I don't know, rehearsed scripts or whatever, I don't know. And I said, I don't really know, but I feel so nervous. Anyway, then it happened to him just like 2 minutes before the show.
Literally,
like,
just before we went on, I was like, I can't go, I can't do it.
And I really, it is a bit cheesy, but I really wouldn't be able to do it with anyone else. And I just think that we're like, it's fine, we're both there. We really know each other so well, not just in this show, but in everything else that we've done. And it's one, knowing that if I mess up, Andy's going to laugh, not be cross, and that we're going to make something of it, and it's going to be absolutely fine. Yeah. And as you said before, if we didn't enjoy it this much, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and the joy, I think, is communicated, and as the audience, you can see that you two are really joyful about what you're doing, and that's just really nice for the audience, because they can just relax and just go, oh, they're having a lovely time, I can relax, and I'll probably have a lovely time as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice to hear.
So when you're rehearsing, I just want to sort of talk a little bit about the rehearsal process. How often do you rehearse?
When we can. So basically, I mean, because we're both jobbing actors as well, it's around kind of tour schedules and other things. But it is kind of as often as we can. And obviously, it's because there's only two of us, it's easier than getting a bigger group together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's it.
when we're both around, probably once a week.
Once a week, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously we're often not both around. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And do you have a coach?
Not for Whacking and Gillian, no. We do have the lovely Victoria Hogg. Yeah. Coaches us for Professional. But we don't for this, do we?
No, and again, that's another thing of maybe at some point we'll get an outside eye or a director. But I mean, for the moment, and in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty early doors.
It is, yeah.
So at the moment, we're just kind of finding our way with it.
Yeah, and we get a lot of feedback from our shows. Obviously, a lot of our friends working in the industry too, writers or actors or directors or whatever. But people with an eye for performance and shows and audience enjoyment and participation, etc., etc. So actually, their feedback has helped us in these beginning stages of doing it as a full-length show. Helped us sort of hone it and think about things that we didn't necessarily see before, and question things and decisions and So that's been useful. And I suppose that's part of starting a show, isn't it? You have to just do it to see what people think, and sort of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's, Improfessional started after, back at drama school, we had a producer who did kind of like sessions with us about the industry. I said to him, I really want to start an improv group.
Yeah.
And he was like, go on then.
Go forth, sir.
Hilariously. So he said, get a group of people together and book in a date so you have to do it. And I think before that, the five of us had a conversation where we were walking home from night out, weren't we? And we all said, we should do something. So then, hey, they coincided. But so we had this conversation me and this producer in maybe February. And I booked in a hoopla night in April. And I went to him and I said, I went to him. I said, Sam, thank you so much for that advice. We've booked in a night for April. And he went, this year? I was like, yes? What? No, don't.
That's so funny. I don't think you told us that at the time. I would be like, nope, not doing it. Give me a year.
But yeah, and it is, I think it's, again, like we were saying with, doing things in improv, being like, you can do this, you should do it. It's the same on a bigger scale. Mm-hmm. Just going, we should book in a thing and try it.
Yeah.
And, that's what we're finding at the moment.
And then that's what Steve Rowe would say. He said that, book the show, and then the show will happen. Yeah. Whereas if you, practice and wait till you're ready, you'll never really be ready.
No.
You just got to take the take the plunge. So, Improfessional is, it works around everyone's acting, so you're only really together for certain parts of the year.
Yeah, so,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the same kind of thing, because again, all 5 of us are jobbing actors, so it's just kind of, that is, when and where we can, really, and as the 5 of us after graduating, become more busy with acting work. Again, it gets harder to book in, but when we do find the time to do the sessions and do gigs, it's a hoot.
It is, yeah. It's great.
Great bunch.
That's why it's obviously a lot easier, like we said, for just the 2 of us to find the time, because it's difficult, isn't it, to for any actor to structure their lives, because nothing is planned or secure or I love my life. So it's slightly haphazard in that sense, but then again, year after year we do lots of gigs and we've started a new group and it happens.
Yeah.
It's just you don't know when exactly it will happen.
It surprises you. Yeah. Creeps around corners.
Yeah, exactly.
And what sort of format were you exploring with Improfessional?
So we started doing games based, and then we've kind of explored different long form and kind of I think looking at Harold's and scene based stuff. And our improv training as a group is all in games, so then it's really interesting exploring more long form and narrative formats. Yeah. So again, like this, with them we're exploring and finding what's fun.
Yeah.
What we want to do.
So, moving back to Joaquin and Gillian, why folk music?
Just like it.
Just like it, yeah.
Right,
And my parents are massive folkies, and I was brought up listening to folk and going to folk festivals, and I think also partly practical because the instruments we play lend themselves to folk, but also it's a beautiful genre, and also it's a storytelling genre. Folk music and folk songs are generally about telling stories, and I mean often much more so than pop music or rock, or it is that which lends itself to improv, because it means it's not odd in the genre to tell a story, whereas I think if you were doing rock music and you were telling a story, it might be a bit odd.
Some artists do it, Springsteen will do it, but then he's kind of a bit folky anyway, so
exactly. So
it's got a big umbrella term as well, I think. Which allows
helps us. It means we can really do anything.
Lots of playing around, and also I think the other shows that we've done as well, we have included so much folk music. So we've been creating. Andy has been writing songs for those, and also we've been playing really old folk songs and the songs that are written into Shakespeare's texts. So it kind of stems a little bit from that, doesn't it? We spend our summers playing folk music, so then it seems only right to carry on.
It's a good job you love it.
Yes, exactly.
Because I was wondering whether you had to do lots of research to sort of find out about not only sort of the actual folk music, but the sort of the things that go around it. But if you're brought up with it, then you'll know all that already.
I think I definitely am less brought up. Well, I can't speak. I was less brought up by it than Andy. But so I've learned so much more about it, and also been introduced to bands and songs that I'd never heard of before. I love country music, and I listened to a lot of that when I was growing up. Dixie Chicks are my all-time favourite band. But so it's been a little bit of a teaching for me, definitely. But you are folk through and through, really. Yeah,
and I am, but then doing the music for the Shakespeare shows again has shown me so much. And, doing the music for that really old folk music, and every day you learn new stuff when you're doing it, either through us doing it or through other people showing you, and it's great.
And are you big fans of warm-ups? What do you do before a show?
We do love a good warm-up.
We love a good warm-up.
I love warming up.
Even more than the show. It's my favourite bit.
I really do love warming up.
Yeah.
It's so important. And actually, so many people don't do it. And so many companies don't do it in the wider industry. And I'm always in the corner, rolling my spine.
I just keep rolling the spine.
So I feel like it's a little bit of a rite of passage before a show.
Yeah, it's ritual.
It's ritual, yeah.
Oh, so what do you do?
So usually we'll play a couple of improv games. Usually, actually, couldn't rap on this.
We'll this is our favourite game.
I learned from the lovely boys in the RH experience, because I went to primary school with Connor. So from them we learned couldn't rap on this, which is, for yourself or the listener, if they don't know, is a wonderful game of rapping and rhyming, and it's really silly. So everyone goes, couldn't rap on this, and then you say a line, couldn't rap on this, you try and make it rhyme, couldn't rap on this,
and then I go next,
couldn't rap on this,
but I don't have any text, couldn't rap on it.
Yeah, and it goes on like that forever and ever. And it's difficult because it's such a fun game that we do it and then just do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop doing it.
Yeah. We get really loud.
Yeah. And it's a really good, I love that warm up because it's a good way to like hype up before the show, because you can get loud and silly and it's so that's a really fun one. We do that.
It's a great one.
A lot.
What else do we do for improv warm-ups? Do what's in the box? What's in your box?
What's in the box? What's in your box? What's in the box? Is that a Nick Cage?
What's in your box?
Give me back my box.
Yeah. I don't think it is your box. I think that sounds so strange. But you basically hold out a box, like, you know, an invisible box, and the other person has to take things out of the box, look at them, and name them. We were taught this by Ruth Bratt, who was our teacher at drama school, and you just keep going. So it's just trying to literally warm up your brain to be plucking ideas out of thin air, literally.
And I love that. I love that when you reach out for something and then you discover what it is.
Yeah, exactly. You really, see it.
Yeah, that's a really nice thing in warm-ups. That's also a really nice thing to do when you're on stage. If you're not sure what to do, reach out and then,
so true. Yeah, exactly.
Discover what the object is.
Yeah.
Do those, and then we usually play a song or two.
Yep.
Just to get us going. Usually our wonderful techie, whoever it might be, we go, give us a name.
Yeah.
Give us a song.
Exactly. When we rehearse at home, we turn to the same book that is always on my coffee table. It's really, it must be one of my housemates' books.
It's like a dream book, isn't it?
It's called The Book of Dreams. But it's not fiction. It's like a proper big, square coffee table book. And it's a real scientific book about dreams. So we turn to a page and I just plonk my finger down and it'll be something like sleeping.
Great. We will do that, then we'll rehearse.
We need a new book now.
Yeah, we'll get one. You know what? Let's get a new book.
Okay, we will.
Okay, cool.
I have other books in my house. That's just always the one that's so close, closest by.
We don't like moving forward.
No.
Oh no.
Cool. Right. I think it's time for the big last question.
Ooh.
So, what, when you're performing, when you're improvising, is your signature move? What is it that you do that brings the house down, that saves the day, that,
What a good question.
Oh, gosh, a really good question.
Can we do each other's?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Definitely.
more fun and
That's
terrifying.
more fun, right? So I think this is yours.
This is brilliant.
Yeah, it is yours. So Andy is very good at choosing the right moment to get the whole audience to join in singing with us. Which I'm never so on the ball as to notice. And it is literally the most wonderful thing, because he just says to the audience, come on guys, join in, or whatever. Shouts over, and the audience absolutely love it, because it will be just on one little line, or whatever. Maybe it's the title of the song, or whatever. And the whole audience are singing with us, and it is like they're our actual fans, and they've listened to this song, countless times in their cars. And you stop playing, and we're clapping, and they're singing, and it's wonderful. I feel like a true rock star.
It's a magical thing, and that gig we did in Edinburgh, and someone requested Wonderwall. Of course they did.
Yeah.
so we did our Wonderwall, no worries. But and the audience sang along, and they did it in like 3-part harmony.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was amazing.
Because your friend she's
a choir mistress. Master.
Yeah. She's a wonderful singer. Yeah. So not only does she join in, she harmonised with us, which was just stunning. Yeah. Brought tears to my eyes.
Well, so you actually did Wonderwall?
No, we did our version of Wonderwall.
It was a song about when Joaquin and Gillian were at school, and the teachers basically asked everyone, what questions they wanted asked, what questions they wanted answered, and the kids had to write the questions, the things they wondered, on a piece of paper and stick them on the Wonderwall, and that's what that song was about.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh boy.
Big ask making us come up with another story to Wonderwall.
Yeah.
No, we've had that before. We've had that since, actually. Someone asked for a Spice Girls song.
Yeah.
What was it? Two Become One.
Two Become One.
Oh, yeah.
Because stupidly, I referenced that song, Two Become One, and then obviously someone was like, well, do that one.
So that song was about putting 2 CDs in a hole made for one CD.
Wow.
Yeah, and breaking the CD player.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we did it.
We did, but you know what? We did it.
You can't argue with the truth.
That's true.
Right? That's what that song is about, so we stuck with it.
Yeah.
That's what we do is that when... so Andy came up with that explanation, and I was like, right, we are doing this. You can't... It's that whole saying yes thing.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go with the truth of how that song was made. And that's fun. I think it's quite funny when the audience are like, oh, what are they going to do now? How are they going to do this?
Yeah, they've really set themselves up for failure. What are they going to do?
We'll do it, don't worry.
So how do you know when to get the audience to sing along?
Because
if you do it too early...
Right, he's good at picking the moment.
And if they leave it too late, I don't know. Or is it just instinctual?
You just feel it, don't you?
You just feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think usually the last song of the show or towards the end of the gig.
Yeah.
When everyone's loosey-goosey and warmed up.
Probably wouldn't go down well on the first song.
Everyone join in! We're great!
Red balloon, third.
Yeah, no, I think usually towards the end of the gig, and you can fit, and actually, it's a real beautiful thing with music, and this is, in the folk music tradition, is people sitting around in rooms all singing together. Yeah. And I think when an audience is watching a show, if there is, like a music show, if there is a simple chorus, I always feel like you can feel them wanting to join in.
Yeah, you can.
You can feel that, and so you just go, right, then do it. And because as soon as you give them permission, they're like, yes!
Yeah. And it's so nice, actually, watching an audience unwind. Because, again, like we were saying, if they're not improv audiences, so they don't come in ready to be involved. They just want to sit back, fair enough. They've paid their money, they've got their drink, they want to sit back and watch a show. And then we ask them to get involved, and they're like, oh, for God's sake. I can see all their faces like, I didn't ask for this. But by the end, they're so involved and I think relaxed by our silliness.
Yes.
And I think that's a real joy because I'm like that too. When I go to the theatre, it's not that I'm always ready to be really fun and exciting when I'm the audience member. I'm ready to sit there and receive whatever is going to happen. So I think that's nice, and they do really, they relax and they get involved, and they're free.
Yeah.
They are lovely moments. Yeah. It's my favourite thing when that happens.
And there are so few moments when you're an adult where you have permission to sing.
Yeah.
Which I think is really sad. There are a few things that I get really passionate about, and one of them is when people are told as children that they can't or they shouldn't sing. Because there's very, very few people that don't have, at least some ability to sing. Mm-hmm. And it's such a inherent joy to being human, to sing out loud, and also to sing in a group.
Yeah. It's so nice, so unifying. And like you say, it's not, I think what our shows are, it's not about sounding pretty, or we're not professing to being the best singers in the country at all. But we find joy from playing our instruments and singing.
Yes.
And that's what we want to share. And anyone can do that, like you say. And as kids, that's allowed. And then you get to a certain age and it's not. And you have to sound perfect and pretty and nice all the time, and if you can't do it then you shouldn't. I totally agree. Screw that, who cares? Like adults in a room together on a Monday night above a pub singing to the Fields of Wheat or whatever we're singing, and it's just joyful. It's nice.
So what is Fee's signature
move?
I think I have a habit in improv of like barreling.
Right.
And I think it can be quite.
By barreling, you mean?
As in, kind of being very.
Clear in your choices.
Yeah, but maybe I don't know. So being very bold and really kind of going at maybe 120%, and it's. I think audiences can find it a bit much. And Fee is the most wonderfully disarming improviser. But I love it because I think an audience can be like a bit like what's going on, and Fee will just say something like a line that will get them back round, and it's a really beautiful thing. And I think it's, as an improviser, when you're playing Gillian, she has a wonderful innocence about her. This is what I've.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
You've never done this. Thanks, Stuart. This is like counselling.
The wonderful innocence about the character that means Fee has the possibility and the ability to do that, and it's a really wonderful thing for me because it means I'm like, nah, and Fee goes, here's this thing, and everyone goes, oh yes, that thing, and I go, oh thank God, that thing. And it's really lovely. For me, one of the big reasons why Backing and Gillian works is because Fee has that to offset my insanity.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think you need if you're both like in any way, like when you're building a cast for something, you need different players in any context, don't you, to make a good team.
Yeah.
And I think that is we're very different people and very different improvisers. So I think that's maybe some of why we work well together, which is nice. And it's cool, isn't it? Because then you can just relax about your shortcomings. Because he's got that. Yeah. So that's fine. I don't need to care about the fact that I can't rap at the speed of light like Eminem. Because Andy does that. So it's cool.
Just disclaimer, I'm not quite as fast as Eminem.
I think you are.
Thank you. I thank you.
Applause.
Applause for you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Applause all
Applause
round.
all round. Applause all round.
What a lovely hour.
Yes. No. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for being here. That was a genuine pleasure.
I made this.
That's improv!